Peace to the gods, peace to the earths and all of the righteous families of the planet. Assalamu alaikum. It's your big brother Fahiym, back again with a short bill. Today I just want to talk about real briefly, it's a rumor that I've been hearing going around for some years now. I've had knowledge of self for over 25 years now. With the 5%ers. First with the 5% Nation of Gods and Earth, as I always mention, and then with the 5% Nation of Islam, the Muslim gods. But there's always been something I've always been hearing over the years, and it pertains to, did Minister Farrakhan have to go to the 5%ers to retrieve his lessons for the Nation of Islam to, be what they are today? I hear that a lot. Oh, Minister Farrakhan, shoot, he had to come to the gods. He had to come to the 5%ers, so he can get his lessons, because he was one of them dudes that threw him out, or burned him or got rid of him, when W. Deen Mohammed said get rid of the lessons, and, he had to come to the gods to get it back, I done heard this story told, several times, what I'm saying? And I think I was building with a few brothers over the weekend, and then I know me and Black Guard Rod too, we also was, building. We always have little bills on and off camera, and I think he mentioned it one time as well. And I said, you know what, that's not even true, God. You know what, I gotta look into that, and I'm gonna do a build on that. You know what I'm saying? And, I've spoken with some of the elders, and that's not even true. Minister Farrakhan never came or never had to come to the 5%ers back in the 70s to retrieve any lessons. That doesn't even make any sense, first of all, because in order to rebuild the work of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and start the Nation of Islam, or restart it, you have to have the instructions for the laborers. This is, very important, and, just logically that doesn't even make sense or add up to the story that's always been told. The father didn't take everything with him when he left the mosque. He only took student enrollment, English C lesson 1, Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1, Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, actual facts, solar facts, and then he formulated the supreme mathematics and the supreme alphabet and gave it to us as our lessons. He didn't bring everything from the mosque. He didn't bring general orders. He didn't bring restrictive laws. He didn't bring the problem book. He didn't bring the aims of Islam and, fruit code. And he didn't bring a lot of these, different things that are given to registered Muslims in the Nation of Islam. So it would make no sense for one to even believe such a lie, because it doesn't make sense. The 5%ers, after Brother Clarence left the mosque and took to the streets, he wasn't well equipped with all of the lessons that Master Fard Muhammad and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave to the Muslims. He went out half equipped. He only went out with half of the messenger's supreme wisdom package. So it makes no sense for one to even, even think such a thing. Just to go back a little bit and review some of the history, back in 1975, upon the departure of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger knew that the nation would fall, because he even said it several times. The messenger said that the nation would fall, but it would rise again one day, never to fall again. So the messenger knew that. Master Fard Muhammad told him that this would happen. The messenger knew that, and he always mentioned it to someone, just the thought of it, the messenger said, was just so heartbreaking. It was almost like someone stabbed him in his stomach with a knife, a butcher knife, and was turning it in his stomach. He said that was just the pain that he would always feel in knowing that one day the nation would fall. His beautiful nation, who in 1973, 1974, 1975 were at the peak, were flourishing. schools, farms, restaurants, barbershops, fish markets. I mean, you name it. The Messenger had whole blocks. An $85 million empire back in the 1970s. A man with a 4th grade education did that. But Master Fard Muhammad told him that the nation would fall one day. But it will rise again. And then once it rises again, it will never ever fall again. It'll always, but it would be a test. Master Fard Muhammad and both the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad admonished us that we would be tested. Allah tells us that in the Quran, that he would test the mu'minun, or the believers. You know what I'm saying? The believers are the students. Make no spooky stuff about it. Oh, believers, the spooky one. No. The believers are the students. They believe based on mathematical calculations. So we would be tested. And just like when we study the universe and we study atoms, and we see how there's always a weeding out process of the strong gene versus the weak gene, separating the wheat from the tare, as Isa alayhi salam or Jesus says in the Bible. There was always this process of separating. Master Fard Muhammad, Allah God, knew that the weak would have to be separated from the strong. There's going to be people in the Nation of Islam, despite how successful the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was and is, despite that, there's still going to be people who are going to go against his teachings and who just aren't going to agree with what he says. Such an individual was his son, his biological son, the Imam, W. Deen Mohammed. When W. Deen Mohammed took over the Nation of Islam, 1975, 1976, by 1977, Minister Farrakhan had enough. And he was like, you know what? I'm out of here. He's teaching something else that my father, my spiritual father now, we're talking about spiritual son versus biological son. But the spiritual son, who was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, knew something ain't right. He deviated for a hot second. Minister Farrakhan will tell you that himself. He deviated for a hot minute, and he kind of went off with Wallace for a hot minute, but he never threw away his lessons. This folklore that he threw away his lessons is not true. There were many brothers in the Nation of Islam when W. Deen Mohammed stepped up and said, I'm taking over. Yeah, some brothers kind of fell away for a minute and kind of went off into that spooky Orthodox Islamic teaching. Some of them did. Minister Farrakhan deviated for a hot second, but then quickly, a year or two later, he snapped back into it. Come on, we all make mistakes. Don't think the man is, don't throw him under the bus because he made a mistake. The minister was still a student in Islam, growing. So he listened to W. Deen Mohammed at first, but then he quickly realized once we started seeing the changes being made, some of the pioneers back then who pioneered what the Nation of Islam is today, they seen stuff in what the Imam was doing, W. Deen Mohammed, whom we call the Imam or refer to as the Imam. He changed the Muslim girl training, the M.G.C and the G.C.C, General Civilization classes and the Muslim girl training. He changed it and said, you ain't girls no more. You're women. You're Muslimas. Muslimah women's development. MWDs. That's what you are. Not M.G.T no more, but MWDs. That's what you are. Then he changed the flag. Got rid of the star and the crescent, the greatest and only flag in the universe, and put up something else alongside the American flag. What else he did? He did numerous things that, changes that brothers started seeing. The garbs, the righteous garbs. He was telling people, you don't need to wear that no more. You don't need to put on no, FOI stuff, and you don't need to, And from some of the accounts of the elders or the pioneers who were back then, they said they can remember one sister. I'm going to post a video too down in the description box of just some of those pioneers that I'm talking about who held on to their lessons. Everybody didn't listen to W. Deen Mohammed when he said throw the lessons in the trash or get rid of the lessons. Everybody didn't listen to that. Some people held on to their lessons. And as I said, Minister Farrakhan was one such individual. But one sister said she heard another sister say, man, I was tired of wearing this old mess anyway. You see that? You see how Allah separates? He knew some of you niggas wasn't built for this. Some of you was in the mosque worshiping Master Fard Muhammad, you know, the white skin and you know, the sinful flesh and pictures of him praying up in your wall. And a lot of you went back into the spooky God concept and didn't see Master Fard Muhammad as yourself, as you, within you. A lot of us did that. Likewise, today or in a more recent time, or even in a more latter time, rather, before that, when Brother Clarence 13X departed from us, when the Father departed from us, a lot of 5%ers went back into debauchery and filth. They went back into a state of jahiliyyah. They went back into ignorance. A lot of them went back to prison. Now today we see a lot of them as Crips and Bloods, and they've put that away. Started eating pork again, a lot of them. Chasing women again, a lot of them. You know, same thing in the Nation of Islam. It was a test to weed out among these germs, if you will, or these cells, you know, these operating groups. So after W. Deen Mohammed broke up what his father built, again, he started a whole new movement that was based on Arabism, pale Arab, Orthodox, Sunni Islamic stuff. No, my father is not no messenger of Allah, and the black man ain't no God. So we gonna stop saying that. In some accounts that I've seen, he actually didn't tell them to burn the lessons, but he said, what we're gonna do is, I would like to, just out of respect of where we came from and where we're going, I would like to kind of put the lessons up in sort of like a museum, create a museum for this MGT and FOI, you know, paraphernalia, and put it up just as a reminder of that's where we came from. But now this is where we are today, and this is where we going. We don't follow that no more, but that's where we came from. So you had believers in the Nation of Islam, you know, some of them, like I said, threw away the lessons. Some of them burned the lessons. Some of them put them up in a museum type of, you know, quote unquote, to just put them up in their little archives, to have it, to always be able to look back as a memory. But some of them kept those lessons and was still teaching those lessons. Some 5%ers think that as the Nation of Islam fell, or when the Nation of Islam fell, after the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed in 1975 and the Nation of Islam fell, all of them went back into spookism. Ain't nobody keep the lessons. Let some of you brothers tell it. Some of you Negroes, let some of you Negroes tell it. That's how it went. Ain't nobody keep their lessons. When there were many splinter groups throughout the country with brothers and sisters still teaching the supreme wisdom. Some, while they were still active in the Nation of Islam under the Imam, Wallace Deen Mohammed, W. Deen Mohammed, and some of them just left the mosque, just straight up and down, like 5%ers. This is where we even get the Muslim guards, the first Muslim, some of the first Muslim guard followers as well. You know what I'm saying? They joined in, some of them joined in with the ranks of the 5%. The 5% had their lessons, but these brothers had their lessons too, straight out the mosque. But they just weren't active no more in the mosque. So they took to the streets along with their 5% of brothers. They didn't want to submit to what W. Deen Mohammed was teaching. That Orthodox Islam and Allah is somewhere up in the sky, or God is something that man can't even conceive in his mind and can never be. That was what he was teaching. We weren't teaching that. He changed the name of Muhammad's University, you know, to his mother, you know, Clara Muhammad, you know, Madrasa, the school of Clara Muhammad. You know, I mean, just a lot of things that his father had built up over a 35, 40-year period. He just began tearing down, changing, destroying, grafting, just all kind of, you know, changes were made. But the test was to see who was going to remain with the original teachings, with the original program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Who would be those individuals? So after 1975, 1976, by 1977, Minister Farrakhan had enough. He had enough. Minister Farrakhan, along with Kushmir, Brother Bernard Kushmir, whom we call Minister Jabril Muhammad, Mother Tainetta Muhammad, the youngest wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the one who's claimed of being a teenager, which she wasn't no teenager, but those three individuals, Minister Farrakhan, Minister Jabril, Mother Tainetta Muhammad, and a host of other individuals who are the pioneers of the Nation of Islam today that we see. They got together and they said, you know what? We're going to rebuild the work. And then there was a host of other individuals that were out there as well, teaching, still teaching supreme wisdom, that had their lessons. Minister James Muhammad, excuse me, I believe out of Atlantic City, New Jersey, Minister James Muhammad, Minister Omar Kareem, who else? Sister Camila, I think I mentioned her. I'm going to post a video, as I said, down below, and it has a lot of these elders who were in the first resurrection of the Nation of Islam, all the way up until 1975 when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed. And they tell their story of what really happened. And a lot of them tell you that a lot of us, we didn't get rid of our lessons. We didn't get rid of none of the tradition of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We were just in there listening, trying to observe, and little by little, they just started falling out, falling away, like, I can't do this no more. I can't do it. After a year, I can't do this no more. After 2 years, I can't do this no more. After 3 years, I can't do this no more. Minister Farrakhan, by 77, said, I can't do this no more. He fell out or away from that group and restarted the Nation of Islam, as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad, and brought back those lessons that he already had. He didn't have to go to the 5%ers to get them. Those lessons that he already had, those rules, orders, and instructions, a lot of notes that he had taken from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad over the years, because as Master Fard Muhammad sat privately and taught Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in many instances sat privately and taught the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The messenger called him my minister and instructed us that where he tells you to go, you should go. Where he tells you to stay from, you should stay from. So today, despite seeing Minister Farrakhan take the Nation of Islam into the study of Dianetics and other stuff like that, which is an original study from the original people of this planet, I don't have no problem with that. But the thing is, we don't have his mission. I don't have Minister Farrakhan's mission. Likewise, Minister Farrakhan don't have my mission. And everybody, you have your own mission. The job is raising the dead to life, instituting family structure. This is the African meiotic concept of life. So we follow the laws of Ma'at as Muslim gods. We follow that because the concept is life. The sun, the moon, and the stars, as I close, the messenger said, is a representation of family. This is the African concept. Always has been, always will be. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad left us with an African or Afrocentric version of Islam as taught by the ancients. It is the most African you're going to get in dealing with Islam. W. Deen Mohammed took it to an Arab culture, you know, and that's something else. But again, the Imam had one of the most successful Muslim communities in America and the largest Muslim community in America. The Muslim American Society, I think later on he changed the name. He kept changing the name, you know, of his paper, of his organization or whatever. But he was very successful for years. But likewise, Minister Farrakhan is successful too. And Minister Farrakhan started from nothing. So as 5%ers, we should look at the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and try to learn something from that. And when I'm saying we, I'm pointing, I'm talking about y'all, but look, I got 3 fingers pointing back at me. You know what I'm saying? 3 fingers pointing back at me when I go like that. So, me too. The Muslim gods, we can learn something from our Muslim god brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because he started back in 1977, and look at where he's at today. Look at how he's brought the nation back and redeemed them today. The Nation of Islam has no debt. They have a whole bunch of schools, farms. They have stuff that, what do the 5%ers have? Ever since the father's departure in '69, what do we have today? That can at least match what Minister Farrakhan has when we had to jump on him. The father left us with a whole school. Minister Farrakhan wasn't left with nothing because W. Deen Mohammed took everything and blew it. Minister Farrakhan over the years redeemed all of that and then some. What the Imam took, he bought back some of that stuff. He redeemed pretty much everything and brought the Nation of Islam out of debt. As 5%ers, we can learn a lot from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that's the reason why 5%ers in the Nation of Islam, we don't have no problem with saying that Minister Farrakhan is definitely one of our leader teachers and guides. I have no problem in saying that at all. Because if it wasn't for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I wouldn't even know Elijah Muhammad. I wouldn't know who Elijah Muhammad is. I wouldn't know who it is. I wouldn't have been able to understand Brother Clarence 13X's teachings, Father Allah's teachings. I wouldn't have been able to understand that or grasp that had it not been for the diligent, studious work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So, you know, all praise is due to Allah for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I love that brother. And brothers need to get their facts straight. Let's stop teaching falsehood. Minister Farrakhan did not have to come to the 5%ers to retrieve anything to rebuild the Nation of Islam. So that is not true, and 5%ers need to stop saying that and start looking at what the minister's doing so we can replicate, you know, and do what he's doing to gain Allah's success as well. So with that being said, family, I don't want to take too long. Just a short bill. With that being said, I leave the brotherhood as I came. In the greeting words of peace, we say it in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. Peace to the gods, peace to the earths, and all of the righteous families of the planet. Peace.